My name is Adam Kiefer, and I'm a professor of chemistry at Mercer University. I'm here on behalf of the MCS group to introduce you to our mercury capture system, which is designed to limit mercury pollution in mining communities, thus protecting both human and environmental health. In this photo, a piece of mercury-contaminated gold is being purchased in a gold shop in Zaruma, Ecuador. The gold shop owner will take this amalgam, bring it to a back room, and heat it with an open flame to evaporate off the mercury. He will not wear a respirator, and the mercury vapor will be dumped into an alleyway between his shop and the best restaurant in town. On the other side of his shop is a children's bookstore, and it's across the street from a school. Mercury and gold, for better or worse, are inextricably linked to one another and have been for millennia, but why? Artisanal and small-scale gold mining, or ASGM, is a major source of income for an estimated 16 million people in lesser developed countries around the world, and represents up to about 20% of annual gold production. Miners use mercury to amalgamate gold, releasing mercury to water, soil, and air during the process. The gold amalgam is heated, releasing more mercury into the atmosphere and producing impure sponge gold. ASGM is now recognized as the largest man-made source of mercury pollution on the planet. The miners here are burning their amalgams next to their houses prior to bringing them to a gold shop to be reheated and then sold. Gold shops exist at the interface between these miners and the international market. Gold shops concentrate mercury pollution in these environments, but also provide an essential business service to their community. Throughout this presentation, I'd like for you to think about scale. 16 million miners traveling to 50,000 gold shops burning amalgams that are 40 to 60% by mass mercury. For every 1 ounce of gold produced by these miners, at least an ounce of mercury is emitted into the environment. Over the last decade, we developed a mapping protocol to determine the location of these gold shops. We mapped ASGM communities throughout Madre de Dios, Peru, while working with their government to develop and refine air quality standards for mercury. In Madre de Dios, we estimate that about 26 million tons of mercury were released during burning in 2016 alone. But again, think about the scale. This is one state and one nation amongst dozens of other nations with ASGM activity. Not surprisingly, the burning of amalgams in ASGM communities has been specifically identified in the Minamata Convention on Mercury as a worst-case practice that signatory nations must eliminate. But it's not that easy. Governments must balance pollution with employment. ASGM may represent a threat to human and environmental health, water quality, food security, and biodiversity, but it's also an essential source of employment. Hundreds of millions of people are dependent on mining for their livelihoods. ASGM is interwoven into the fabric of daily existence in these communities and may even represent a major component of the national GDP. In many cases, ASGM is stability. ASGM is food on the table. There's no current solution to the gold shop problem. In a best-case scenario, rudimentary homemade fume hoods push contaminated air outside the shop, which is what we pick up on when we map these communities. The hoods that they use are inefficient and unoptimized, resulting in large quantities of contaminated air that dumps back into the shop. They all use open flames, and although some gold shop owners claim to capture mercury, the use of open flames oxidizes the mercury, which deactivates it to amalgamating gold. In Peru, we met one gold shop that captures mercury only to dump it into the river because it's sick and no longer works. In a worst-case scenario, people have made their own systems, in this case out of a vacuum cleaner, that draw in mercury and pull it back into the room. This is the result of shop owners engineering ventilation systems that are ineffective and dangerous. It's clear that there's no existing technology to address the gold shop problem, but you may be asking yourself, what about retorts? Retorts have been employed for decades, and they can work, but are slow and only as effective as the operator allows them to be. Miners don't use them correctly, the mercury suffers from oxidation and is difficult to reuse, the miner can't see his gold and is often concerned that they'll be stolen from. Retorts may work, but they're not useful. We've developed a solution to the gold shop problem that is relatively inexpensive, captures in excess of 95% of the mercury, which is immediately available for use and resale, allows the miner and the shop owner to see the amalgam or sponge gold at all times, and has a smaller footprint than existing homemade systems. Although our patent, found in the supplemental materials, describes multiple systems, our most effective system employs an induction coil, heating the mercury in the amalgam without heating the air around it. In this demonstration, you'll see that there's a small amalgam in a crucible, behind which is a green screen that lets us visualize mercury vapor. Once we start heating by induction, the amalgam heats up immediately, releasing mercury. A lot of mercury. You'll see that I add water to the crucible, and although the amalgam is still being heated and mercury is given off, the water doesn't boil. We heat only the amalgam. I can even touch the crucible with my hands, even though mercury boils at over 300 degrees Celsius. Our systems have been tested in Ecuador, Peru, and as you can see here in Guyana. After the amalgam or sponge gold is heated, a pump pulls the mercury down the vertical tube and through a series of water bubblers. The majority of the mercury is captured in the first bubbler. In the video on the left, a gold shop owner places a piece of sponge gold into the crucible. Air is being drawn through the system and the bubblers are bubbling. Once turned on, you'll see that within seconds the sponge gold glows red and mercury is evaporated and pulled through the system. For a frame of reference, open burning results in mercury concentrations in gold shops exceeding 40 million nanograms per cubic meter. Our instrumentation during our testing of our MCS determined concentrations hovered around 4,000 nanograms per cubic meter inside the gold shops. In addition, the exhaust of our system routinely measured below 100,000 nanograms per cubic meter, which is the OSHA acceptable sealing concentration. So it's orders of magnitude decrease in mercury concentrations when using the MCS. The MCS decreases environmental damage, decreases risks to human health, and decreases the costs of gold processing by saving mercury. Potential users and customers of the MCS are listed below. Gold shop owners are aware of the dangers of mercury, but are even more aware of the money thrown away by not capturing the mercury and reusing it, and the pressures placed upon them by the government. The national governments must find a way to live up to their Minamata Convention obligations, demonstrating that they're gaining control over their mining sectors. Grants for these government projects are oftentimes funneled through NGOs and training organizations. Of course, the international gold buyers, who are vilified as global polluters, seek to find a responsible means of separating the mercury from the gold before they refine and contaminate their own facilities. Miners and processing plant owners know that mercury use is bad, but right now, there is no technology that can replace mercury, and given a choice between feeding their families and stopping mining, they'll be feeding their families. Now, gold shops, refineries, and miners' unions have money and they want these MCS. We've already established that there's no competition in this area, and in 2019 we were offered $5,500 for our prototype in Guyana from a shop that had already paid $1,500 for a homemade system that didn't work. We believe that we can produce a system that costs $1,500, and we know that our systems work, and we've assembled a team that can not only bring the MCS to market, but demonstrate its impact on the environment. We've combined decades of experience working at the interface of business, development, science and technology, and human health in ASGM communities. Our proposed business model is straightforward. We propose a pilot program in Madre de Dios targeting gold shops, NGOs, and the government. We will seek input from gold refineries and will immediately grow our team to include sales, marketing, and administrators to manage our growth. Ideally, these people will be on the ground in Peru. As we refine our prototype, we'll identify manufacturers who will work within our targets of $300 for fabrication and a sales price of $1,500. To date, Mercer University has contributed in excess of $500,000 to our work with the goal of having these units placed worldwide. Demonstrating our MCS is the best way of attracting partners and funders, which we'll do during our pilot program. We are signing an NDA with the European Gold Refinery with the potential of using the MCS to provide them with mercury-free gold. This industrial connection is key because the gold shops exist at the interface of ASGM and the international market, and the MCS provides the opportunity to establish a meaningful supply chain, moving gold refineries closer to the ASGM community. Even as new mercury-free technologies come to market, we can use this connection to support dissemination of new technologies. Our pilot program will help us generate white papers, estimate return on investment, and provide us with the content necessary to directly reach our investors. As with any business venture in ASGM, there are real risks. We recognize that the international community rightly wants to eliminate mercury use in ASGM, but there's no affordable and universal replacement for mercury, and new technologies may be decades away. Governments and gold shop owners need results now, and so does the environment. Mercury reduction today means decreased mercury in the forest canopy tomorrow, which will undoubtedly assist in bringing about positive impacts on biodiversity conservation. Our technology provides for a smooth transition between the present and the future while organizing and formalizing the supply chain. We need to ensure that the MCSs work safely, and with our record of training governments to monitor mercury pollution, we can train them to monitor these systems. As with any business, we need to develop marketing, seek funding, and develop the oversight required to move from one MCS to the 50,000 needed for all gold shops. Finally, after years in development, we have a system that works and has been tested in the lab in the field. This grand challenge provides us with the opportunity to establish our pilot program, refine our design with the input of gold shop owners, and responsibly develop the information we need to attract investors and move the MCS from prototype to essential equipment in every gold shop on the planet. Our pilot program will engage the community and will provide us with the endorsement of real gold shop owners. It will also support our efforts to link gold shops to major gold refineries, cleaning up the supply chain and opening new avenues for economic growth. Thanks for listening.